بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. I humbly ask Allah Ta'ala to grant us all the sincere intention and the good comprehension. Allahumma ameen ya Rabb. So I wanted to read to you an advice which many of you have probably heard before, but in memory of Sheikh Abdullah. He passed away on the 2nd of Ramadan. Rahimahullah Ta'ala rahmatan wasi'ah. I humbly ask Allah Ta'ala to compensate him in great goodness for all that he has done for us. He was the reason that many of our lives and our families' lives were changed for the better, having acquired the knowledge that would be the reason for one to be safe from the everlasting stay in hellfire. And the one who implements the way of the Shaykh truly and sincerely, they would reach al-wilayah. How can they not? We ask Allah Ta'ala to grant us that. Allahumma ameen. I'll read it in Arabic and then we'll read it in English, insha'Allah Ta'ala, and it's not that long. So the Shaykh Rahimahullah Ta'ala said in advising his students and the Muslims, الذي يقوم اليوم بحماية عقيدة أهل السنة والدفاع عنها ونشرها بين الناس وبمحاربة فرق أهل الضلال والتحذير من كفرياتهم ويأمر بالمعروف وينهى عن المنكر ويلزم مذهب أهل السنة والجماعة له أجر 50 من الصحابة في الأمر بالمعروف والنهي عن المنكر، لحديث أبي ثعلبة الخشني الذي رواه الترمذي، وثوابه أكبر من 100,000 حجة نافلة وأكثر من ثواب 200,000 ركعة نافلة ومن بناء 500 مسجد إن لم تدع الضرورة لبنائها ومن ثواب 100 ختمة من القرآن وإن مات ولو على فراشه له أجر شهيد وله في الجنة مسافة 50,000 سنة ولو كان مرتكبا لبعض الكبائر تغفر له إن شاء الله ويكون له شأن ومرتبة عالية في الجنة. ثم قال الذي يتقاعس اليوم عن نشر علم أهل السنة كالفار من الزحف ذنبه كبير، أي وقع في الكبيرة، فإياكم والتواني والتكاسل. نحن علينا أن نحذر ممن يدعو إلى الكفر والفسوق، علينا أن نحذر، فمن لم يحذر فهو عاص يستحق العذاب. الذي لا يغير المنكر مع القدرة يستحق العذاب. لذلك علينا أن نحذر الناس من دعاة الكفر. العلم أي علم الدين دليل الفلاح والنجاح والنجاة في الآخرة، وبه يعلم شكر الله تعالى، لأن شكر الله هو طاعته، أداء الواجبات واجتناب المحرمات، هذا الشكر. فكيف تؤدي الواجبات وتجتنب المحرمات أي بلا علم؟ وصلى اللهم وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين ومن اتبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. So what did the Shaykh say in this very nice advice which we should remind ourselves from frequently, not just once or twice a year, I think more than that. And subhanallah, you know, like years ago, people used to spread this advice more. I don't see anybody mentioning this advice, and that is so sad. Let us bring back some of the determination that perhaps some of us had years ago, or what we saw in many of our brothers and sisters years ago in learning and acquiring the knowledge and spreading the good and teaching in person and online, whatever the person is able to do, warning against all the kufr types, warning against the people of misguidance. Many people are not as active in warning against the people of misguidance as they were during the time of the Shaykh. He was very serious about this, brothers and sisters. He was very serious about this. Sheikh Abdullah lived his entire life doing this. As you know, Sheikh Abdullah, his primary goal was spreading the correct belief of Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, a task which occupied most of his time and most of his life, and refuting the people of misguidance and warning against them, and warning against the evil and corruption that pops up from here and from there. Every day, subhanallah, you hear about things that are contradicting the religion or strange things that keep popping up. This was the way of the Shaykh, and I don't want myself or you to forget that this is the way of the Shaykh. And so we need to stick to it. Subhanallah, yani when we talk about Sheikh Abdullah, we know his high status, right? He wasn't someone who wrote like 1,000 books. He has books that he wrote, of course. He compiled things, he authored things. But he wasn't like, if you remember yesterday, we mentioned that Abu al-Faraj ibn al-Jawzi, he wrote over 400 books. Sheikh Abdullah did not write or compile over 400 books. However, Sheikh Abdullah, his knowledge that Allah granted him, that he spread, is being taught in every country in the world. At a time when most of the people, most of the Muslims are committing major sins. Subhanallah, because of him, so many people were guided to the truth as well. Sheikh Abdullah, he prioritized teaching the creed, making sure that people know their Lord so that their worship is accepted, is valid, and learning about kufr, the types of kufr, blasphemy, that takes the person out of al-Islam so that people can protect themselves from that and protect their deeds of righteousness. And teaching and spreading about the misguided people so that we can be warned against them and not fall into their traps. So I wanted to, in memory of the Shaykh, just remind us of this, that this is the manhaj of the Shaykh, this is his way. And perhaps if we look in the past, we were more active, some of us, perhaps we would see that in ourselves, in refuting the people of misguidance, mentioning the misguidances of so-and-so and so-and-so, Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyyah, and so on. People like this, mushabbihs, different anthropomorphists, and many of them exist nowadays. Many people nowadays, they liken Allah to the creation. Of course, Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah is more in number than them, but they still exist. And they are on the social media outlets, and they have a lot of followers, and they do things that are catchy and gain a lot of followers, but they put poison in what they spread. I wanted to remind myself and you to put an effort in this, lillahi ta'ala. Yani make your intention now that you will spread the creed more, insha'Allah ta'ala, and teach about the different types of kufr more, and that you will spread clarifications about the people of misguidance so others can be warned of that. And insha'Allah ta'ala, you would have what the Shaykh mentions here, which I'm about to mention to you now. He said, the one who in our time protects the creed of Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, defends it, spreads it amongst the people, combats the sects of misguidance, the groups of misguidance, warns against their blasphemies, their kufr, and bids the good and forbids the evil, and adheres to the creed of Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, he will receive and she will receive a reward of 50 of the companions in bidding the good and forbidding the evil. Someone might say, where did he get that from? The Shaykh mentions, he said, this is based on the hadith of Abu Tha'laba al-Khushani. So there's a hadith narrated by at-Tirmidhi. That's where the Shaykh got that. His reward, the one who does this, defends the religion, is greater than performing 100,000 voluntary Hajj pilgrimages, and more than the reward of 200,000 voluntary rak'ahs of the optional prayer. And subhanallah, I want to stop here for a moment. What did the Prophet tell his companion Abu Dharr? He said, Ya Aba Dharr, لأن تغدو فتتعلم آية من كتاب الله خير لك من أن تصلي 100 ركعة. O Abu Dharr. And he loved Abu Dharr, so he was advising him. He said, O Abu Dharr, if you go and learn one verse of the Quran, it will be more rewardable for you than if you prayed 100 rak'ahs from the optional prayers. And then what did the Prophet say after that? He said, وَلَأَن تَغْدُوَ فَتَتَعَلَّمَ بَابًا مِنَ الْعِلْمِ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنْ أَن تُصَلِّيَ 1000 رَكْعَةٍ. And if you go, O Abu Dharr, and learn a chapter of religious knowledge, it will be more rewardable for you than if you prayed 1,000 rak'ahs from the optional prayers. So the knowledge, brothers and sisters, has a very, very high rank. Allah Ta'ala in the Quran in many verses told us about the merit of the people of knowledge, and that those who have knowledge are not equal to those who do not have knowledge. And inshallah we'll touch more on this tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala, but I wanted to mention this to you. So imagine if you go and learn one chapter of knowledge, this can be something very easy. It doesn't have to be a lengthy chapter. The chapter of siwak, how to use the siwak to clean your teeth, this is a very short chapter. But you would get the reward that the Prophet said. لِأَنَّهُ بَابٌ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ, because it is a chapter of knowledge. If a person goes and learns the chapter of wudu, he will get this reward. If he's sincere, of course. If the person goes and learns the chapter of istinja, for example, or how to perform al-ghusl properly, and the like, the chapter of fasting, the chapter of prayer, the person will get this reward. So, and a chapter of knowledge might take you a few minutes to acquire. It might take you a few minutes to acquire, but it would take you a long time to stand in prayer. Yani 1,000 rak'ahs of the optional prayer, this would take a long time. But the reward is more if you acquire a chapter of knowledge. So obviously, knowing that, you wouldn't be surprised with what we are mentioning here. That the one who spreads the creed and protects the creed and defends the creed of Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah and combats, yani fights against the people of misguidance and warns against their matters of kufr, their cases of kufr, and he bids the good and forbids the evil and adheres to the creed of Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, this person, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, he will receive the reward of 50 companions in bidding the good and forbidding the evil. And this is something immense. Allah knows best how high a person's rank would be in paradise for doing that during the times that we're living in. You know how we hear about those companions that their reward was so much for something that they did? Well, we're not living at that time, but we in our time, we have an opportunity. If we defend the creed and defend the religion, we have an opportunity for an immense reward. Immense. And subhanallah, most of the people, they don't even know that they can do this. They don't even know that this is an opportunity that exists nowadays. They're too lost in the dunya. So the Shaykh said, based on the hadith of Abu Tha'labah al-Khushani, which is narrated by At-Tirmidhi, this person would have the reward of 50 of the companions in bidding the good and forbidding the evil, and his reward will also be more than performing 100,000 voluntary Hajj pilgrimages, and more than the reward of 200,000 voluntary rak'ahs of prayer, and more than the reward of building 500 mosques if there is no dire necessity for their construction. Also, the reward, the Shaykh said, exceeds the reward of reciting the entire Quran 100 times. And if this person were to die on his bed, yani in the comfort of his home, he would have the reward of a martyr. And in paradise, he would have an area that stretches a distance of 50,000 years traveling. We can't even imagine that, subhanallah. 50,000 years traveling, subhanallah. The Shaykh continues to say, even if this person had committed some major sins, they would be forgiven. Bi-idhnillah, Allah would forgive them, because of the greatness of the good deed that they were doing in defending this religion, and defending the creed, and teaching the people the religious knowledge. And he would have a distinguished status and a high rank in paradise. Now imagine the one who does this and he doesn't commit any sins and he's pious. Allahu Akbar. May Allah make us amongst those ones. He said the one who neglects spreading the knowledge of Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah today, meaning he was able to but he wasted his time, Sheikh Abdullah said he is like the one who flees from the battle. His sin is great, yani he commits a major sin. So beware of negligence and laziness, he said. Then he said, we must be vigilant against those who call to al-kufr, blasphemy, and corruption. We must warn against them. Whoever does not warn against them is sinful and deserving of punishment. He said the one who does not change evil while having the ability to do so, he deserves punishment. Therefore, we must warn people against the callers to kufr. Then he said, knowledge, the religious knowledge, is the key to success, prosperity, and salvation, yani safety, in the hereafter. He said through it, one learns how to be thankful to Allah, for true thankfulness to Allah is obedience to Him. It's in obeying Him. That's how you truly thank Allah. It's by using the endowments Allah gave you, including our body parts, our eyes, our hands, our tongue, in obedience and not in disobedience. He said fulfilling the obligations and avoiding the prohibitions. This is a shukr, yani this is thanking Allah. How can obligations be fulfilled and prohibitions avoided except through knowledge? Then he said, may Allah raise the rank of our Master Muhammad, his pure and noble family and companions, and those who follow them in goodness until the Day of Judgment. May Allah Ta'ala benefit us by these words and grant us to implement them, and grant us to teach them to our family members, and that they hold on to them and stick to them, and us too until our last breath from this world. Ya Rabb, grant us that. Allahumma ameen, Ya Rabb.